First about there's an article that appears today in Breitbart News, which deals essentially with an FBI agent named Walter Giardina, who was recently fired by Kash Patel. He's the guy that testified at my trial, and I hold this man responsible, and it's not about me. I hold him responsible for a lot of what has been done to really erode trust of the American people in our American justice system. That's the story of Walter Giardina. I urge every one of you guys to read the Breitbart article, fact check me, and I dare you to find anything I say in there that's not absolutely true. And if it's absolutely true, that man needs to go before Congress, and needs to be hauled up, and he needs to be held accountable. And it's not just him, it's Obama, it's Clinton, it's Comey, Page, Clapper, Brennan, Schiff, and all the rest of them. What I want to talk first about there's an article that appears today in Breitbart News, which deals essentially with an FBI agent named Walter Giardina, who was recently fired by Kash Patel, the FBI director, and the media, led by the New York Times, is trying to make this guy a martyr. And this is the same guy that put me in handcuffs, put me in leg irons, and led a totally unnecessary arrest with armed FBI agents at Reagan Airport, and bought my fiance, and he's a man who I will now show you really helps understand what has been a long-term, consistent, weaponized attack on Donald John Trump going back to 2016. So I want to walk you through the arc of that. We start with the Steele dossier. Christopher Steele writes this thing paid for by Hillary Clinton. It was always a propaganda piece, and it became the catalyst for the Russia hoax, Crossfire Hurricane. And the first thing that Giardina did was, and this is all alleged by whistleblowers, everything I'm telling you is from whistleblowers that were reported through, and thank you, Senator Chuck Grassley, for getting this information out. He's doing a wonderful job on this. Giardina was one of the FBI agents who blessed the Steele dossier, who basically vouched for its authenticity and therefore set Crossfire Hurricane on its way. That was a complete hoax that cost tremendous amounts of political capital, harmed the president, and was just wrong. Now, at the same time, there was a separate operation going on, and it was called, I'll call it the Egyptian hoax. It was codenamed Crimson River, and they later renamed it Red Masari. It was an allegation that the Egyptian government had given $10 million to the Trump campaign. It was total BS, just nothing there. Again, Giardina played a central role in propagating that and then using that to do these investigations, do the leaks, do the smear tactics on Donald Trump. Now, Crossfire Hurricane allowed Giardina then to move into the Mueller investigation. And he served there throughout the investigation. One of the things that the whistleblowers point out is that Giardina's laptop mysteriously got totally wiped clean. So all the data on there was now unavailable to you as journalists. The whistleblowers point out that there were more than one person on the Mueller report team that used a technique where they put their password in a number of times in their cell phones and it wiped all the data clean. So it seemed to be the culture of the Mueller report, and if in fact it's true that Giardina actually did that on purpose, that's a felony. That alone would put him in jail. Now, you think I'd be done, but no, I got a lot more to go with this guy. There was a thing called the emoluments clause. It's a clause in the Constitution that says that people like presidents and government officials can't take money from foreign governments or from state governments by getting favors, things like that, okay? Again, Giardina, according to whistleblowers, was at the very root of that, propelling that forward. It has been revealed as nothing more than a fishing expedition. It was like a license to hunt phone records and all sorts of other things. That guy was at the center of that. And then, in my view, some of the worst damage he did, not just to the president, but to a lot of people I consider my friends, is something called Operation Arctic Frost. And that was the one that followed J6, that investigated all the events surrounding the use of the Electoral Count Act of 1887, which is a perfectly legitimate tool to call for a recount of votes. Giardina used that, and it led to attacks on people like Jeff Clark, John Eastman, both of whom may lose their law license, spent millions of dollars on it, Jenna Ellis, Sidney Powell, Rudy Giuliani. Giardina was there as well. And in some sense, I buried the lead, because going back to Crossfire Hurricane, one of the big casualties there, and a great friend of mine and a patriot, was Mike Flynn. He was forced to resign because of that nonsense. And when we lost Mike Flynn early on in the administration, we wound up with John Bolton. How'd that work out? One of the most treacherous people that's ever been in that West Wing. So this is the guy, if you weave that through, it paints a picture of a sustained effort by people inside the FBI, inside the Justice Department, inside what we love to call the deep state, which is what it is, inside the rhino wing of the Republican Party, going after Donald Trump. So this guy, nobody should feel sorry for him. He's not a martyr. New York Times, you got to do a better job of doing your journalism. And he's the guy that put me in handcuffs, put me in leg irons. He's the guy that served me with my subpoena. He's the guy who testified at the grand jury. And there's allegations there that that testimony was not truthful. He's the guy that testified at my trial. And I hold this man responsible, and it's not about me. I hold him responsible for a lot of what has been done to really erode trust of the American people in our American justice system. That's the story of Walter Giardina. I urge every one of you guys to read the Breitbart article, fact check me, and I dare you to find anything I say in there that's not absolutely true. And if it's absolutely true, that man needs to go before Congress, and needs to be hauled up, and he needs to be held accountable. And it's not just him, it's Obama, it's Clinton, it's Comey, Page, Clapper, Brennan, Schiff, and all the rest of them.